Hey, we're back. It's season 2 of the 40s Formula.
And hey, a lot has changed in season 1. Not only have we left you for a few months, but I am no longer pregnant, which is about the greatest feeling on earth.
And my dog is now humping everything.
Oh, Coda.
We're getting through.
Yeah, and we love being in studio so much that we decided to bring the studio to you in season 2. So you may have noticed we are now video and audio, so you can hear us in your ears and see us in your eyes.
Woohoo! So we are super excited to have season 2 up and rolling. And
we've got a lineup of great guests for you talking about all the important issues for women in their 40s.
So stay tuned. Hey, and welcome to the 40s Formula, your go-to place for insightful discussions on navigating the 40s and thriving in this transformative decade.
We're your hosts, Jasmine and Amanda, 2 women that are passionate about exploring the challenges and adventures that come with turning 40 and what lies ahead.
Hi, Tracy. We're so excited to have you here on the 40s Formula today.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And actually, this is a topic that's really close to my heart. I started experiencing perimenopausal symptoms at 36. Ooh. And since then, I feel like it's basically changed the trajectory of my life because I started focusing on nutrition and it's almost like everything started falling into place for me. What was it about nutrition and in particular hormones that interested you and made you want to go down this route?
Well, I think the main reason I have a passion about perimenopause and nutrition, around perimenopause is because we haven't really talked about perimenopause before. It's not a topic that 5-10 years ago was something that people knew about. I don't think even the term perimenopause has been brought up in the last 5-10 years or 20 years. So people start not feeling themselves at some point 10 years before menopause hits. And nobody could pinpoint what the reason was. So if you had depression, they will give you antidepressant. If you have vaginal dryness or you have UTIs, they will say you have an infection. And if you were feeling moody, it's your hormones. And you suddenly started putting weight on your abdominal area and no reason why, because nothing has changed in your diet. And it wasn't menopause and it wasn't anything else. Nothing came out on your blood tests. So for me, that was something that I believed women had access to and to understand. So for me, I think that is one of the reasons, like trying to advocate for women and to have that information and what nutrition is important for them so they can understand better what kind of changes they need to be making at that stage of their lives.
So obviously hormones do affect the woman's transition. What sort of changes do women see and how do their nutritional needs affect those hormones? How can they go ahead and help ease those transitions?
Well, I think the most important thing we need to understand is that 10 years before, you hit menopause, your estrogen levels start declining, right? So estrogen is a very anti-inflammatory hormone. It's anti-inflammatory for your heart, your lungs, your bones, your muscles, your brain, your gut, even your kidneys. So with that in mind, we have to think that if your estrogen levels start declining, everything else is going to start failing. So the symptoms that we get in perimenopause are kind of similar to the symptoms that you will get during menopause. So you will start getting moodiness. You will start getting hot flashes, mood swings. You will start increasing weight in your abdominal area or in other areas as well.
Definitely seen that.
And so those are things that we have to consider that will happen during perimenopause, but because you don't understand it, you don't think that that is something to do with menopause or that your estrogen levels are declining that big. We have to think that, during perimenopause, you start losing about 20 to 40% of your estrogen levels. So it's a huge amount, right? So the first thing we need to think that is that when you start on perimenopause, the first thing that happens is your appetite regulation changes. So your estrogen regulates your appetite. So there are two hormones, right? You have your leptin and ghrelin, and your estrogen will regulate that. So when your estrogen levels are high, leptin, that is the one that helps you to feel satiated, will increase and you will satiate faster. And when your estrogen levels decline, then ghrelin will increase. And then that means that you're going to feel hungrier more often. So it's
I always say that the ghrelin is like in your stomach.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great way to think about it.
Then the other aspect that we have to consider is your metabolic rate. When the estrogen levels are high, your metabolic rate is higher. And you consume more calories, and your expenditure is obviously higher. But again, when your estrogen levels decline, your expenditure also drops. And that means your metabolic rate is going to drop as well. So there is a study that came out very recently that showed that your metabolic rate doesn't change. It only changed 4 times in your lifetime. And during this period of time doesn't change. But what this study doesn't really reflect is that your estrogen levels decline, and that means that your expenditure is also going to decline. So that is one thing that we have to remember, right? And that's one thing that maybe people don't understand. So that means that you're going to put on weight more easily because you're eating the same, but you are expending less calories due to that estrogen decline.
And also, I guess, during that period, your muscle mass also tends to decline as well.
Absolutely.
And then with less muscle mass, as you would know.
Yeah, we tested every single day at our clinic.
Yeah. I mean, estrogen influences the way we create muscle. So the more estrogen, the more muscle you create. So if your estrogen is lower, then obviously you're going to find it harder to put on muscle and to create muscle. And then the next part is your body composition. Estrogen influences the distribution of body fat. It favors a lower accumulation of fat in your abdominal area and more in your hips. But when you start in perimenopause and that estrogen levels again declines, it's going to favor that fat accumulation in your abdominal area without you doing anything different. And so that's
definitely
something
struggling
so
with
those are
that.
the major challenges that women are going to see during perimenopause.
Does that mean that there's nothing we can do about it? Or is there a way that we can eat in order to make sure that we can optimize better body composition?
Of course. I mean, the thing is, we can't just say there is nothing you can do about it. You can. The thing is, you have to make changes. You cannot say, I'm going to be continuing eating the same way. I'm going to be continuing eating the same things because we are not the same anymore. Mm-hmm. It's the same as when you're 10 years old. You're not the same as when you're 40, or when you're 20. You're not the same as when you're 50, right? You can't eat the same as when you were 15 years old. So we have to obviously prioritize certain foods than others. So here is where whole foods come into place. We have to prioritize whole foods, whole grains. We have to prioritize lean protein.
Hey Amanda, what's more challenging than finding good quality nutritious food for your family?
Probably juggling life in your 40s.
Okay, yes, you're right there. But do you know how you can make it a whole lot easier? The Meat Club.
The Meat Club is the premier source for top quality Australia and New Zealand produce right here in Singapore.
I love their subscription model. It's an easy way to get high quality protein delivered direct to my door.
And it's packed at the source, delivered via an unbroken cold chain, so there's no middlemen and there's more savings in the good quality meat.
And guess what? We've got a special treat for our listeners. As a first-time customer of the Meat Club, you can save yourself $12 with no minimum spend. Just use code TFF12 on their website at www.themeatclub.com.sg.
And don't forget to follow them on Instagram at TheMeatClubSG for recipes, updates, and special offers. And now, back to the show.
And we have to prioritize hydration, and we have to definitely minimize certain things such as processed foods, sugars, and I'm sorry to say it, but alcohol as well. We don't tolerate alcohol the same way as we did before we start hitting perimenopause.
And that's a huge one. You know, the WHO just came out in January and made a formal statement that no amount of alcohol is safe in terms of cancer risk, right? So relative specifically to that. But I think that applies similarly to menopausal women, which is there is no level that's going to assist you in that transition.
Absolutely
right. So
right.
if you choose to drink, all cool, that's your choice. But
Absolutely
nothing's
right.
helping you.
Yeah, and when I have my clients on and I do my sessions with them, the first thing that they ask me is like, how can I have my, 1, 2, 3 glasses of alcohol? Is to say, I cannot recommend you any amount of alcohol. Any amount of alcohol you take is in detriment of your health. So it's up to you how much you want to. But for me, obviously, I can't recommend you any amount because your body at this point, especially your liver, needs to detoxify all the toxins, all the excess hormones, and make sure it's metabolizing the hormones in your body the right way. So it's very important that we don't put that excess toxins that your liver is going to have to detoxify. And it's a burden that you're putting to your liver. And so therefore it's something that we need to kind of try to avoid as much as possible.
For some women who don't really want to go down the route of using HRT, are there any types of nutrients that they can consume that may help with symptoms such as hot flushes or night sweats, the vaginal dryness? Is there anything that you would recommend that they can take? When I entered perimenopause, I almost didn't believe it. The symptoms snuck up on me and hit me hard.
That's what I hear from so many women, that it's kind of subtle at first, but then you begin to realize something is off, something is truly changing.
The things like stress, sleeplessness, night sweats, mood swings, there are almost 70 documented symptoms of perimenopause. But now I know there are also answers too.
Supplements like Aussie-made Peri Health support women in perimenopause while combating some of the common outcomes of this time, like bone density and muscle loss.
And we don't want to lose that muscle. And you know what? I love that it smells like lavender too. If you're looking for a premium all-in-one supplement solution to help you thrive in perimenopause, look to Peri Health. Our listeners can also get 10% off their first purchase with code FORMULA10 at checkout, myperihealth.com.
I know when it's my time, I will not choose to suffer. Peri Health can help. And now, back to our conversation.
I mean, I think the most important thing that we need to consider in terms of if we're talking about supplements.
Supplements or nutrients, like even through food. Yeah.
I mean, the most important is try to keep your inflammation down, right? Is key. So I always recommend to my clients to follow a very anti-inflammatory diet, which, as we say, is like try to increase whole foods as much as possible, vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, omega-3 foods. I cannot emphasize high enough how good sardines or mackerel are for you. So for women, I know it's a very fishy type of fish.
I like both.
Oh,
I
love
love
sardines.
myself, yeah.
And it's number one. But
it's salty, isn't it?
Yeah, sardines, the good thing about sardines is that it's very anti-inflammatory, very high in omega-3, which is going to be very helpful to your nervous system. So it's going to bring down anxiety. It's going to minimize the risk risk of depression, which are very it can occur quite, often during perimenopause. And so sardines have like 20 times more of omega-3 than salmon, for example, but also less toxins. Because it's a very small fish. Mm-hmm. So the amount of heavy metal that fish can actually accumulate is very minimal. And also it has to be wild caught because sardines cannot be farm raised. So it's a very clean fish to eat. So something like that, eating at least once a week can do wonders for your health. Walnuts, chia seeds, all those kind of foods are great for the amount of omega-3 that they have. Then it will be also great to increase your vitamin D because of bone health. So we focus a lot on calcium, that is great, but we have to also increase your vitamin D. We need vitamin D, we need magnesium to be able to really absorb calcium in our bones. Otherwise, we're actually leaching out minerals rather than absorbing minerals.
But the same doesn't apply if you go and, take a walk in the sun. It's only if you're taking a vitamin D supplement rather than...
No, you can actually, at 10 minutes when the sun is high, it's a great way to absorb vitamin D. The problem nowadays is that because we use a lot of sun cream, we're blocking a lot. So if you're wearing long sleeves and you're wearing, sun cream, SPF, and you're wearing a hat and glasses and covered completely, you're not absorbing vitamin D. You have to have the skin exposed.
You can tell you've lived in Asia for some time.
Yeah.
I will say, for our listeners in California, that's not a common sight.
I know.
Here, that's an everyday.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. So that's something. But eating foods rich in vitamin D, like, dairy, eggs, mushrooms as well, they're great on vitamin D. And then we can increase our consumption of foods rich in magnesium, which is a muscle, it helps to relax your muscles. It helps to relax your brain as well. It's, and that is going to help you with your sleep. That is an issue. During perimenopause. So that's something that you can take either as a supplement or through foods. Nuts, seeds, leafy greens, very rich in magnesium. And then for hot flashes, it's a great idea to take something like black cohosh.
I thought you were going to say black coffee.
I thought black coffee as well. I was like, yes.
Black cohosh is great because it mimics estrogen. It has compounds that mimic estrogen, and it will help to kind of minimize the symptoms of estrogen-caused symptoms such as hot sweats and problems with sleeping. And then cooling foods like watermelon, cucumbers, leafy greens, those are great to keep the temperature down for hot sweats.
And what about sort of cruciferous vegetables? How can that sort of help?
Cruciferous vegetables are great because they help to, they support your liver function. And so they help to actually, to maintain to support the liver to detoxify from, obviously, all the excess hormones and the toxins that we need to detoxify. And when that happens, then everything works better because it metabolizes your hormones better. You have the hormones that your body actually need, and they're not those huge fluctuations that is the main issue with perimenopause, because we decline on the hormones. But that decline, if it's balanced, I mean, you have a good ratio of progesterone and estrogen, it's not going to cause as many issues as if you have a huge disbalance or, the ratio is not right between progesterone and estrogen, right? So we want to keep that ratio the right way so there is not those peaks where then the hot flashes comes or, the night sweats or the moody swings and stuff like that.
So for those who aren't aware, cruciferous vegetables are things like your broccoli, your kale, your cauliflower, cabbage. When it comes to gut health, that seems to be quite a trending topic right now. How much of a role does that play with regards to sort of your symptoms, your menopausal symptoms or perimenopausal symptoms?
I mean, gut health is crucial for because it's where the hormones metabolize, right? So they have a great role, but we also have to consider that estrogen and progesterone have a role in your gut health. So your progesterone helps to create mucus that is very important for your for the integrity of your gut lining. And then estrogen is very anti-inflammatory and helps to keep your gut lining tight. And one thing that happens is that when your estrogen levels decline, because it has this anti-inflammatory effect.
Amanda, I just discovered this super awesome, good for your health, supports your gut and immune system drink.
Okay, tell me more.
Akisi Tropical. Just dilute it in some sparkling water and it tastes like you're sitting in the sun on an island far away.
Oh, and I actually love their new berry flavor too. It has the trifecta, pre, post, and probiotics. Akisi's science-forward approach means that I'm getting all the good stuff without any of the nasties, and I can enjoy it any time of day.
And the best thing, you can get 15% off full-priced items and free delivery when you use code 40s for any purchase in Singapore from their website, akisiwellness.com.
Don't forget to try their Elderberry Boost and probiotic base products, which are actually perfect for babies too. And now, back to the conversation.
Some women start developing food sensitivities because there is not that anti-inflammatory protection in your gut. And so your body is heightened and alarm, and things that didn't have an effect in your body before have now. So if you probably had been eating, walnuts for all your life and suddenly you develop a sensitivity to walnuts.
That's my mum, by the way. It's really funny you picked that.
Specifically
Oh my
that.
gosh.
Like she was eating walnuts, no problem. And now all of a sudden she's like, I'm allergic to walnuts. Like every time she eats them, she gets an itchy throat.
Yeah.
So anyway, please continue.
And it's because their gut lining has been compromised, develop what is called a leaky gut that is more common during perimenopause, and suddenly you develop some food sensitivities that cause you to be more bloated. So that's an extra side effect that you might get during perimenopause. You're bloated, or you develop eczema, or suddenly you develop acne, or rashes, or joint pain, because obviously joint pain could be also caused by food sensitivities. And so that's something that we have to consider. And so maintaining a healthy microbiome is crucial during perimenopause. So increasing your intake of fermented foods like tempeh, miso, kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, right? Greek yogurt.
All the stuff I love.
Those are perfect, exactly. So fermented, carrots, anything that has live probiotics will help to maintain a healthy microbiome and work with you instead of against you.
And I think this is where your previous point about you cannot apply the same strategies you did in your 20s to your nutrition in your 40s and 50s, right? And this is a perfect example, right? I hear so many women in my practice that say, I used to just skip a few meals when I was 20 and I'd lose a couple pounds by the next morning. Okay, that's great. But in your 40s and 50s, skipping meals is poor science. You need to be strategic with the foods that you intake, and you need to be intentional.
Absolutely.
Right?
And one of the things that happen during perimenopause is that we develop insulin resistant. We are more sensitive to insulin, and we don't manage blood sugar the same way. It's more difficult for you to manage your blood sugar. And so one thing that we have to be careful is what kind of foods you're eating. Make sure that you prioritize fiber. It's important to have 25 grams of fiber a day as a woman in your 40s. You have to prioritize protein, have protein every meal, and fats, healthy fats. So those are the main priorities if you want to maintain a balanced blood sugar. Make sure that you then don't develop insulin sensitivity, right? And you're feeding your hormones, your endocrine system, and feeding your gut, and making sure that everything is working well.
I tend to get a lot of clients who will say, I'm really good, at the start of the week. And then come Friday, I don't know what happened, but I just let loose. And, then I can't help myself. And I end up just overindulging. And then I'm back to square one again every Monday.
Yeah.
And then I don't see progress. Now, what would you say to somebody who is in that cycle of, being good or restrictive, Monday to Friday, or even, morning to evening. And then all of a sudden it's like, bam.
Yeah. When that happens, obviously, we're not having a balanced diet. So you have to start from there. So it's looking at, obviously, what they're eating throughout the week, because it's probably very restrictive. If they're really nourishing their bodies, they're not really going to be craving, many other foods. And it's okay to have treats. And that's why the word was created. It's a treat. So there are certain foods that we should treat them as treats. And that is something that, I can't remember last time I had an ice cream. Oh, I fancy an ice cream. Have the ice cream. But if you remember very quickly when the last time you had an ice cream, it was too soon. Yeah. So you have to kind of concede and grant those cravings when they come, because they're fine. But, you have to be mindful that we should treat them as a treat. And nowadays, with the amount of delivery options and type of foods and stores, and, it's very difficult not to have what you want to have every single day. But we need to be mindful that you have to prioritize nourishing your body. And if you do that with the right foods, as we discussed, you are going to just treat your weekends with more respect, and you're just going to have maybe a piece of cake if it's someone's birthday, and it's fine. And then maybe another day you're going out and you're going to have maybe a side of fries, but you're not going to do that on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because, you understand how your body works and what your body needs. And once you feed it with the right foods, you're going to feel nourished and happy. And yeah.
What would you say to somebody who says, I'm barely eating, I'm having 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day, but yet I still seem to be gaining weight? What do you think is happening there, or what are they doing, or how can they improve on what they're doing in order to start seeing changes in their body composition rather than just sort of focusing on that weight element?
I mean, if you're eating 1,000 calories a day, I'm pretty sure you will be losing weight. So it's pretty sure. So it's that never happens. Indeed, there is a study that shows that it was done on a group of women that they all were 100% sure that they didn't consume more than 1,500 calories a day. They analyzed all their food intake, and it was over 2,500 calories.
I read this study and relished in it.
And so when someone says that, it's not happening. If you're eating 1,000 calories a day, you will be losing weight. And there is no, my metabolism is stagnant, or I'm flat, plateau. No, you're 1,000 calories a day. I promise you lose weight no matter what. What might be happening is that obviously they're snacking things and they don't realize, because most of the times our brain don't register when we snack, because we want to forget that, right?
Tasted this while we're cooking, eat the kids' leftovers, trying this.
But they're not eating nourishing foods. Yes. So they're constantly craving and hungry. So that brings their cortisol up, and they're in a flight and fight mode. And when that happens, your body is very smart. It's going to learn to try to find whatever energy you have in your body, and it's going to save it in the form of fat, because your body doesn't know when you're going to eat next, when you are in a stress situation. So that's probably what's happening. They're not nourishing their bodies, their cortisol is high, and their body is just accumulating fat whenever is possible, right?
In clinical language, right, we call that overfed and undernourished.
Absolutely, yeah.
Too many calories and not enough nutrients.
Yeah.
So if you were to curate a plate for, an ideal, or not an ideal client, but for a lady who's going through perimenopause, what would you suggest that she eat? Say, if you just sort of run through the day, what she could have for breakfast, followed by lunch, dinner, any snacks, like what would be your sort of ideal meal plan?
So something less, for example, someone that is perimenopause, a woman, we will probably start in the morning with drinking lots of water, keep themselves hydrated, just make sure that they do a good cleanse of their colon, their digestive system, maybe a little bit of lemon in that water, a little bit of chia seeds if that person maybe has issues with bowel movements, so it can help to kind of move things along very quickly in the morning.
I feel like coffee helps.
A good poo in the morning is what it sounds like here.
But the difference between coffee and chia seeds, that chia seeds have omega-3, very healthy oils that will clean up your colon in a very healthy way instead of coffee that will just basically kind of nothing wrong with coffee, but different ways of working. And then obviously a breakfast, especially if it's on the go, you don't want to spend too long in the kitchen. It's just a Greek yogurt. It's a great one with a scoop of protein powder in it. If you want to increase and make sure that you hit like 30 grams of protein in the morning, and see if that works for you. Some pumpkin seeds, walnuts chopped there, some berries, fantastic for you. Lots of fiber, lots of antioxidants. Best fruit for you, very low in glycemic index. And that could be a nice breakfast in the morning. Then keep hydrated throughout the morning. If you're not doing any other intense exercise, just keep hydration up. There is no need to be eating snacks in the morning if you're not doing anything very tiring, right? If you're not on your feet all day, if you're working in an office, just keep hydrated. Herbal teas, water, kombucha, if you fancy something like more bubbly. And then for lunch, I love for lunch a nice salad. So lots of greens, lots of cruciferous, some chopped broccoli, kale, spinach, lots of vitamin B there and minerals. And then adding a good piece of protein. Could be tempeh, it can be tofu, it could be chicken, it could be salmon, sardines.
I would say this could be a sardine opportunity.
Mackerel. And very simple because you can just open up a tin of sardines and just pour it into your salad. Simple. Avocado, half an avocado is perfect. Great fiber and great healthy fats there. And then for a snack, could be something like apples with some nuts. Just keep it simple. Just nuts and fruit for afternoon.
And sort of combining the fruit with the nuts to...
It's a fantastic combination. Lots of fiber, lots of fats and protein. You can also have some ricotta cheese if you want to increase your protein, if it wasn't enough at lunch. And then for dinner, just keep it very simple, right? Grill fish, grill meat, with a side of vegetables, as many vegetables you want. There is no limit of how many vegetables you can have. Just 1 tablespoon of olive oil per person. That's kind of like the measurement. Just have as many vegetables as you need to feel, full. Yeah. And it could be also beans. Beans are a great source of fiber, so you can do a mix of vegetables with beans and a side of meat or fish, right? Or that kind of things. That's probably the best for you. And then after that, you can have a piece of fruit or a little bit of yogurt or a herbal tea, valerian root or chamomile, very helpful to relax your mind, so preparing you for sleep. And that would be a great way to eat for the day.
Yeah. And I love that you just kept saying the word simple. Because I think that is something that people definitely overcomplicate, is that eating healthy, it has to be recipes and you have to get a certain balance, a book with 16 ingredients per meal and make sure you have your anti-inflammatory and, everything. No, at the end of the day, exactly what you said, combining whole foods in a way that gets you a lot of plants and fiber and a lot of lean protein.
Yep,
That's
absolutely.
it. There is no other magic there.
No.
You know? Yeah.
One thing that women in also during perimenopause can benefit a lot is consuming, if you're not sensitive, is to increase your consumption of soy. Mm-hmm. Soy has estrogen-like effects, and it can help minimize a lot the symptoms because of the estrogenic effects that these foods have. So eating more tofu, maybe instead of having regular milk, go for soy milk. Tempeh, tofu, edamame beans added to your salad. It's something that will help to minimize. Indeed, in Japan, the word menopause didn't exist. There was no word for menopause because they didn't have that transition. They didn't have the symptoms. And after studying that, they realized that one of the causes was the high consumption of soy products. And soy also can help you to minimize the risk of breast cancer and increases your bone health and minimizes the risk of osteoporosis. So soy is one of the foods that I will say to women not to be afraid and to start consuming more.
Yeah, and we have the privilege of being, having access to non-farmed, Monsanto-style soy, right? So, take that with a grain of salt for our American listeners, right?
Exactly.
But here in Asia,
just
we
make
have
sure
access
that,
to fantastic
try to go for
soy.
organic, non-GMO soy, and you will be fine.
You've definitely got my grilling going off right now. But you've given us so much food for thought, and, it's been amazing having you here. Before we finish up, I do want to ask, what's your 40s formula? If you were to give some advice to our listeners, what would you say would be the best way that they can thrive in their 40s?
I think the best way is focus on whole foods. Be mindful when you're eating. Be aware of your full cues and your hunger cues. Be hydrated. Hydrate yourself. Prioritize the sleep and self-care. So I think those are probably the main, tips I will give someone that, wants to be great in their 40s.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, thank you so much. That sounds like a recipe for success.
Oh, for sure. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Guys, you know how much we love coffee. And if you want to show us some love, you can get us one.
Just visit buymeacoffee.com/the40s formula. Cheers.
Listener 12490399784 left us this review after Natalie Dow's episode. 3:45? Wow, what? Love the Aussie accent feature. So amazing to hear these stories from amazing women.
And thank you, user 12490399784. We promise we'll keep the Aussie accents coming for you. Before we go, please remember to hit subscribe and take a moment to support the 40s formula by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform.
Your reviews will help us to reach more people and allow us to continue to bring valuable content. It should only take a moment, and it's a free way for you to support the show.
You can also stay updated with the 40s formula by following us on Instagram at the 40s formula, all one word. We share behind-the-scenes insights, episode updates, and much more, so please be sure to hit that follow button.
We appreciate your time and support. Thank you for being part of this community, and we'll be back next week for more empowering conversations with inspiring guests.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes.
And you got the love to give to them, right?
And people, when they see me with kids, like, oh, I'm surprised you don't have kids because you know, you
can give them back.
And you always, I say, because I don't have kids, I have patience.
Exactly.
So I
You
can
have
spend time with my
an excess of love to give, versus like your last thread of love.
Because I say that, I'm like, I can't deal with other people's kids because I can barely deal with my own.
In my case, I'm like a magnet. I attract kids and dogs for some reason. And
do you want to babysit? I've got 3 kids and a dog.
Anytime. And so, and it's fine, but it's some people find it like, oh, you don't have kids. Like we're like, okay, and I still survive.
Exactly. Like I said, living my best life. Not to be rude, but